the Citizen. I'm your host, Tia Carroll Jones. I'm here today with Illinois Speaker of the House, Emanuel Welch. Welcome to the show.
Tia, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm the state representative from the 7th District. And for those of you who don't know the 7th District, it is west suburban Cook County for the most part, parts of DuPage. I tell folks, Tia, that I'm a kid from the woods, Maywood and Bellwood.
Okay.
That's right in the center of my district. And it goes east to Harlem Avenue and west into parts of DuPage, Elmhurst, Hinsdale, a little bit of Oak Brook. But I represent a community that I've lived in my whole life. Graduate of Proviso High School, went to Northwestern University Law School, and ended up back in the community serving on my local school board, and somehow ended up being elected state representative, and 8 years after that, Speaker of the House.
What led you to public service?
I have always been very active in government in some way, whether it was student government, local government, from high school to college, whatever. I just loved being involved. But I never thought I'd be on this side of public service. And then when I graduated law school, I wanted to buy a home. The first place I thought of was in my hometown, my area I grew up. And when I bought the house in Hillside, a couple years after that, I ran for my local school board. I wanted to be involved in the local schools. I didn't think local school boards were political. I thought I was just giving back, doing some public service, and boy, didn't realize really, truly until running for the board how political school boards can be. And I won that election in 2000, started service in 2001, served on my local board for 12 years, 10 of those years as the chair. And after 12 years on the Proviso Township High School District 209 board, I got elected to be state representative and started in 13. But the real learning happened on that school board.
Okay. How does your background shape your decision making as Speaker of the House?
Wow, I think everything that I have done in my life, God was preparing me for this role. Whether it was my involvement in high school and college and student government, whether it was playing sports, baseball, football, and the discipline and the team camaraderie, sportsmanship that you learn from working and being involved in sports, to being a lawyer and my training as a lawyer, being a trial lawyer specifically, comfortable speaking in a courtroom before a jury and things of that nature. Working at WGN TV as a weekend assignment editor and knowing news for 7 years back in the early 90s. All of that, I think, has helped me as a state representative and certainly as a speaker. It's really helped shape me.
What do you think is the most common misconception about the role of Speaker of the House?
I don't know if I would say misconception or perception. I would say most folks don't even understand the role.
Okay.
I tell folks I'm Speaker of the House, and sometimes they're just looking at me with that blank look. And the Speaker of the House is truly one of the leaders of the state. As state representative, I'm elected to represent my district that I serve. Those folks aren't happy, and I'm not state representative. I'm not even there. And per the Illinois Constitution, the first order of business after state representatives are sworn into office is to elect a Speaker of the House. And the Speaker of the House is the CEO. You run the day-to-day operations of the chamber. You set the agenda. You appoint members to committees. You determine what the committees are. You determine what bills go into those committees. You determine what bills go up on the board for the members to vote on the floor. And one of the biggest bills that you deal with every year in Illinois, we do budgets annually, is the state budget. And it's the first time in 207 years that a black person has led that process in the House. That's historic. We've had 70 speakers of the House, 69 white men, and me. And make no mistake about it, I always remember where I come from when I'm in rooms like that, and I'm very intentional about making sure that historically overlooked communities are not overlooked while I'm there. I think it's important that you know, we're not just at the table, we're at the head of the table.
Talk to me about some of the legislative wins you've achieved last session and going into this legislative session. What are some of your top priorities?
Yeah, you know, Tia, I think last year, and by the way, just a couple of days ago, I just hit 5 years as Speaker on January 13th. I can't believe it's been 5 years already. And every year I feel like we've had some historic wins. And I'm really proud of the fact that every year I've been Speaker, we've passed balanced budgets that I say is responsible and compassionate. They're budgets that really have helped communities all across the state of Illinois. Yeah, I'm very intentional about our community, but those budgets have helped every community across the state. And we did that again last year. You know, it's been tough with the occupant of the White House right now, blowing holes in state budgets from a federal standpoint. But I'm proud of the work that we're doing on the state side. I'm really proud that in October, we passed a transit reform package. We were really at risk of a lot of folks losing their jobs, a lot of trains and bus services being cut. And in our communities, that's the only way some people can get to work. And we were able to pass a massive reform package that's not going to just be something to preserve the status quo, but it's actually going to be transformative to improve the CTA and PACE and Metro and things of that nature. And I think people are going to be writing about that for years to come. We passed an energy bill in October that I think is going to help bring down these high utility bills. With Trump focusing on oil and gas and coal, we're trying to do things that focus on where we're headed for the future, particularly with renewable, green energy, solar, wind, nuclear, things of that nature. And as we expand supply, you can bring down costs. And we were able to get that done. Those types of things aren't easy. And so as we head back to session next week, really our whole lens is affordability. I mean, Trump has really created an affordability crisis all across America. He said he was going to bring down the price of groceries on day one. But the last time I looked, the prices of everything is up. And here we are headed into year 2 of this disaster of a presidency. Beef prices up, egg prices up, everything is up, and the cost of living is higher. And so we're going to be focused and continue to focus on things that we believe can bring costs down. We're going to try to do some things around homeowners insurance reform, auto insurance reform, try to do something to help bring down the cost of prescription drugs so people can afford their prescriptions. You know, Trump and the Washington Republicans not renewing the Obamacare subsidies is making healthcare premiums double and triple in many households, and most of those households look like us. And so we have to be concerned about trying to find ways to bring costs down, because we know Trump is only concerned about him and his billionaire friends.
How are you working across the aisle to ensure that Illinois residents in urban and rural communities are thriving?
Well, I gotta say, particularly since I've been Speaker, the Republican Party that I work with is very similar to the MAGA Republicans that are running the country. And so, since I've been Speaker, they haven't voted for a single budget. But as I said to you moments ago, the budgets that we've passed have helped everybody across this state. As Speaker of the House, I'm not Speaker of the Democrats. I'm Speaker of the House, and I run the House, and I got to govern and make sure I keep an oath to the entire state. And those budgets have helped communities all across the state, whether the Republicans have decided to vote no and be the party of no every year since I've been Speaker. And I still try to reach out and do my part. Last year, I appointed a Republican to chair a committee. Under a Democratic leadership, a Republican chairs a committee in the House of Representatives. That hadn't been done in well over a decade in the Illinois House of Representatives. I appointed Representative Brad Stevens, who happens to be the mayor of Rosemont and a Republican, to help us with this transit reform package. They very much have a role in this process, and everything goes through committees. Republicans are appointed to every single committee. They have a voice on the committees. They have a voice, obviously, when it hits the floor. But I think they could do more. I think they can put the MAGA partisanship aside and participate a little bit more, particularly in the budget process. But whether they decide to do that or not, we're going to stay focused and pass responsible and compassionate budgets. They can join us, or we'll do it without them.
What has been your most challenging decision as Speaker of the House?
You know, as Speaker, I think one of the biggest things that I do, and I tell folks, actually, I say, they titled it Speaker of the House, but the job really should be Listener of the House. If you're doing your job well, if you're doing it accurately, I think you're doing more listening than speaking. Because when you're listening, you're learning. And we've had a lot of difficult decisions. And by listening to people, you learn where they're at on issues, you learn what needs to be tweaked here and there. In order to get big things done, I think it takes time to inform, educate, and build consensus around issues. And we've been able to do that. Now, that takes time. Sometimes people get frustrated by the fact that, why didn't it pass in May of last year? Well, obviously it wasn't ready. If it can pass by taking a little bit more time and building more consensus, because the legislative process is not easy. It can be extremely frustrating, but you got to take the time to listen to everybody. Everybody should have voices at the table. And so I don't want to say one thing has been most difficult, because there's been several difficult things that we've been able to get done.
Where can people go to find out more about you and the office of the Speaker of the House?
Well, there's several places they can go. Tia, you can start with my website if you want to learn more about me in particular, EmanuelChrisWelch.com. Emanuel is with one M, and EmanuelChrisWelch.com. I'm on every social media you can think of, as Speaker Welch IL, Speaker Welch IL. And then also the Illinois House Democrats. We're on most social media. We're on LinkedIn, and also ilga.gov. That's our General Assembly website. And if you're a junkie, you can play on that thing and learn all kind of stuff about bills in the House and the Senate. The Senate President and I have pledged with the Better Government Association to a lot more transparency than ever before. So there's going to be archives put up on that thing that you can go and have a lot of fun looking at some of that old stuff.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like our audience to know?
I think the biggest thing that we need to know is that people need to be involved. And I think the audience that listens to you really needs to be involved. I don't think anyone's happy with what's going on in our country right now. And Donald Trump won his second term as president by the lowest vote margin in American presidential history. And that's because people didn't get involved. They didn't go vote. And I've been telling folks, the biggest threat to our democracy is not just violence. The biggest threat to our democracy is indifference. And if we don't get out there and vote, this is what we end up with. We end up with a president who's taking us back before the civil rights. He's trying to cut everything that Dr. Martin Luther King, whose birthday is today, God rest his soul, thank God we had him here on this earth. Everything he fought for, this president is trying to reverse. And we have to get involved, not be indifferent, if we're going to continue to fight for the things that we really believe in and what matters in our communities.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
Remember to make plans to join us again next week for Conversations with the Citizen, the place where real news can be heard.